Well, hello there. So I just released a video over on the main channel going over 20 of the most evil metal riffs of all time. And if you haven't yet seen it, the link to it is in the description down below. Very convenient. But what is it exactly that makes these riffs especially spooky? In this video, we're going to be getting super nerdy and finding out the answer to this very question. Let's do this. Of course, metal didn't invent this sound. It all comes from way back in time, from pieces like In the Hall of the Mountain King, or even something more eerie like the Nutcracker. So we're going to analyze what makes all of these sound the way they do, and by the end of this video you should be able to know how to replicate all of these spooky sounds yourself. Chromatic notes are simply the ones that fall outside a scale, and this often makes them more unstable and unsettling. That wrongness is exactly what gives a riff that eerie horror movie flavor that metal loves. Dissonance can be found everywhere in metal, since it's great for creating chaos and evil atmospheres. But the trick isn't just using wrong notes, these riffs use them in a very specific way. A perfect example of using these wrong notes for a Halloween-esque feel is Spill the Blood by Slayer. These spooky sounds still somewhat orbit around a minor tonality. Starting from the minor scale, we get spooky fast when we throw in the major 7 from melodic or harmonic minor, the flat 5 from Locrian, and of course metal's favourite, the flat 2 from Phrygian. You can find these often in the more raw, scary caveman sound of thrash metal. Bands like Slayer and Sepultura love this sound. If you'd like to learn more about all of the concepts talked about in today's video and unlock access to my entire archive of guitar exercises, masterclasses and song lessons, then click the link in the description down below and get started at Bradley Hall's Guitar School with a free 7-day free trial on me. The reason why I've mentioned what scales these notes come from is because they're not used as your usual bluesy chromaticisms. Now, even if those do help create chaos, when used as passing tones between two notes of the scale, they don't really get that spooky vibe that we're aiming for. What we really need is that super strong sense of dissonance that gives us the full flavour of these notes. For that, riffs will approach these notes, or the ones that come right after, by a whole third instead of a second. Technically, it doesn't need to be found within a third, and it could just be any big leap, since they all help emphasize the sound of the note, as long as they're not your usual passing tones. Ironically, it's the major thirds that give the biggest sense of weirdness, probably since they're further away from the minor sound we're using at home. Now, you might have noticed that these riffs love to move those leaps up and down. That's a big part of what gives them their identity. The real fun stuff starts when you mix it all together, those specific chromatic notes, the big leaps, and that constant up and down movement. On top of this, Spill the Blood also alternates between E-flat minor and F-sharp minor, so it's moving the whole scale a minor third up too. Moving minor chords by thirds is a common resource to create these horror movie soundtrack kind of atmospheres. Once you focus your ear on these patterns, you'll hopefully start hearing the DNA behind all of these riffs and start to see the commonalities between them. Now let's check out some other riffs in different styles and go over which of these resources they use to make them sound spooky. There's some other ways of creating evil atmospheres, focusing more on the general vibe. These often use some scale with the sharp 4 or flat 5, as well as using it as a chromatic note in minor, like in the other riffs. You can also get a pretty dark sound through Phrygian dominant. This scale is often used to achieve a more exotic sound, and if used with heavy, long notes, you can get a pretty unsettling vibe from it. Grand Conjuration by Opeth is a great example of this, using syncopated rhythms and doubling the melody on a high organ to produce that haunted mansion feel. Lastly, here's some other riffs that don't really fit into these categories, but are still worth a mention nonetheless.
Ugh.